Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's football show here on STV2. The main talking points on tonight's programme. Waghorn leaves Rangers to join Ipswich. Aberdeen charged by UEFA. Celtic still hoping to land Patrick Roberts. Just a few of the talking points on the programme tonight. We'll look back over all the weekend goals in the Premiership as well. Alan Ruff is alongside me, Peter Martin, and it has to be Monday. Our bookroom guest is Gordon Smith. Delighted to have the two lads with us. Lots to talk about. Here's the back page headlines on the newspapers. And you can see the Sun, Gers have cast a spell on me. And on the sidebar there is an interview where Michael Moles has blamed David Murray for the liquidation at Rangers. And the Record, magic spell, and this is reference to the kit man actually spelling Graham Dorrans' name wrong, but eventually when he got it right, Graham Dorrans also got it right on the pitch with a double on his debut in the Scottish Premiership. And Derek McInnes in that little sidebar already conceding the title to Celtic after game one. And here's the Mail. And again, you can see Rangers players celebrating there. And Beaton saying that Kyle Lafferty should have had a red card for a dive in that game. So there's the back page headlines. Celtic, the champions, unfurled at the Premiership flag, Ruffy, and they were off and running, as you can see with the goals here. Griffiths finishing off two of the goals.
Yeah, good through ball from Beaton. I thought the goalkeeper could have done a lot better, but who to get the first goal? Lee Griffiths. You can see what it means to him. Second goal, bad defending by Hearts, and Sinclair got the lucky break in the right place at the right time just to stab it into the bottom corner. This was, for me, was a really good goal. McGregor again, the star, and Griffiths in the right place at the right time. But by that time, I think Celtic were just one-sided. Sinclair again putting on to McGregor. Great finish. The boy's oozing of confidence just now, and he's been a big player. Bad goal to finish the game for Celtic. Bad defending from the full-back and the centre-half. And I think Craig Gordon would like to have done better at that goal.
Yeah, I think all the fuss around it, Gordon, was really the after-match interviews, and John Daly let rip, didn't he?
Yeah, it was quite a shock, that, actually. I didn't expect him to do that at all. You know, I thought something might have come from Hearts, to be honest with you. If they weren't happy about how Brendan Rodgers had dealt with it, the comments he'd made, I thought Hearts might have made a statement on it. But as it was John Daly who did, and it was a real shock for me, because he's only a caretaker manager for his first game. He's only a young guy from Ireland, and you know, all he's been is a coach so far, but mainly a player in his time. But he was quite strong, his comments.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, he certainly was passionate.
Absolutely disgusting, disgraceful. I hadn't read them I hadn't read any comments before the game. Someone asked me before the game. I hadn't read any, so I obviously made a point of reading it when I came in, and I think it's very poor form, very poor form. I think a manager of his calibre should know better. You know, I followed Brendan's career when he was at Liverpool, when he was down south, and never once did I hear him make a comment about Man United structure, about Chelsea structure, about Man City structure. But all of a sudden he comes to Celtic and he thinks it's acceptable to talk about the structure of our football club.
Well, we kind of fell into two camps on the Saturday show, Ruffy. You guys clearly want everybody to follow an etiquette, a code of conduct, whereas Hugh McDonald and myself are looking at it and thinking, if you're a journalist, you're rubbing your hands thinking the next couple of days almost certainly is easy.
Yeah, you're right. The both of you were right, and we saw the papers yesterday and today. You know, it was full of it from the media side. But then you have to take another side. You know, was he the guy who should have made that statement right after a game? He should have been concentrating on what actually happened during the game. But obviously he's come out with that. He's wanting the job. He's wanting the manager's job, and that kind of interview, you know, sways in his favour a wee bit, but I definitely think that should have been a Craig Levein and an Ann Budge possibly the next day making that kind of statement.
Yeah, I get the feeling it might be well well over 100 applicants for this job. We're getting new names day by day.
Yeah.
Steve McLaren, the latest to be linked with the job, and I did put out a tweet earlier today, Gordon, wondering if he does get the job, will he actually talk in a Scottish accent, just to keep everybody on side.
An Edinburgh accent, maybe even more so, yeah. He probably has got one already, he'll be practising. But I think, it's a job that a lot of people do want. But John Daly, I agree with Ruffy. I thought that in terms of, that was almost like a part of his interview process, was to say, I can handle after match, questionnaires. I can talk to the press. I can handle this, and I can say what I believe and what I think. And I think that I'm sure he's impressed the people that run the club.
Yeah, absolutely. And another man who we asked if he was interested in this job was the Falkirk manager, Peter Houston.
It's something I don't want to talk about. It's a guy who, I feel for Ian. He's been put out of job. A good friend of mine and an ex-captain of mine, John Daly's in charge just now. I think that John deserves an opportunity to see where it goes. I don't think he should be judged on one result, and that result at Parkhead today could have happened to any top manager who's experienced as well. So it's one of these things that Craig Levine's a very, very good guy. He'll have a look at the whole situation, and I'm sure that he'll do what's best for Hearts. But at this moment in time, I'm delighted to be the Falkirk manager, and I'm contracted to them.
Experience, passion and understanding of Hearts. He'd get my vote.
Yeah, I think he would get a lot of people's votes, but it'd be interesting to see where Craig Levine and Anne Budge are, what the priorities are of a new manager. Is it bringing in youth and selling them on? Is it bringing in experienced players? What kind of CV have you got? Where have you been? What kind of players can you attract? And that's the way they'll look at it. I mean, when you think of it, you would think it would be a Hearts-minded, if that's what you want to call it, sort of a guy who's been there for a while. But who knows? We don't know the candidates.
Yeah.
It depends also whether Craig Levine wants to have a similar role now, where he's got a young manager in there and he works along with him and he helps him and he develops in that respect, or does he want somebody experienced in there so he can take a backward step and say, right, it's now down to you? Yeah,
well, Hearts are the only Premiership side not involved in the League Cup this week. Celtic take on Kilmarnock, and Chris Davis, interestingly enough, the Celtic assistant, has been speaking today about the story that Patrick Roberts could have been going to France on a loan deal. Celtic still haven't given up hope of signing him permanently.
Well, they've been talking, and obviously the situation's always open to a certain extent because the transfer window's still open. I think Patrick's someone that we really enjoyed working with up here, and I think the manager's made it clear that he enjoyed working with him, and obviously there's always going to be a home for Patrick here if that's going to suit everybody. The exact situation for Pat at Man City will obviously be between him and the club at the moment. All I know from our part is that we valued the player, we rate the player, and I'm sure if it was right for everybody, then something would be done. But
interesting times. I know Celtic fans would like to see Patrick Roberts back at the club. Might take about 6 or 7 million to do it, though, Ruffy.
Yeah, but I think Brendan Rodgers touched on it, that he is the kind of player they're quite prepared to pay money for. But again, I think the finances were the one that determined that. The boy must have enjoyed his time here, in Europe. And I think he's another player who just needs to be wanted. And we'll have to wait and see whether they pursue it or not.
Yeah, I think that he's a player, I think he's outstanding for Celtic. Man City paid 12 million for him. That's the incredible thing about it. He was at Fulham. He'd hardly played a game for Fulham. I think he had about 4 starts in their first team when they paid 12 million. And so even to get him for 6 or 7, when he's got a lot more experience now than he had then, might not be possible. But maybe trying to get him on loan would be the aspect, because if Celtic can maybe qualify for the group stages, they might use that as their bargaining tool to say, like, can we get him in because he's going to be playing at the highest level in Europe.
Yeah, I think the key here, the general opinion is that they've actually made a substantial offer to Manchester City for him on a permanent deal. I mean, as Gordon said, the attraction of Champions League football might sway it in his favour if they get past the next round.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. He's been in the Champions League. He experienced these nights at Parkhead and the games away, and that is a big, big thing. But I mean, it depends what he's got on the table. Maybe Man City were wanting him to go to the Championship, or you're saying they want to go to France or whatever. And then the lad will suss it up and say, well, Celtic's the place I want to be. But the other thing about it is, if he comes to Celtic, he's not guaranteed a start. You know, because Forrest has been given the shout ahead of him and he's just been coming on in a bit park. So that'll be another decision he's got to make. Do I go back to Celtic and be a part player again, or am I a starter?
Yeah, Celtic take on Kilmarnock tomorrow night in the League Cup. I think every game that they play now after dismantling Hearts, you're looking and wondering who is actually going to derail this unbeaten run.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult for any domestic side to do it. I mean, I know that we saw the headlines there that Derek McInnes is almost like giving Celtic the league already. And I think that's just football experience to do that. I mean, in most terms, most people, most of the pundits, everybody who's asked who's going to win the league this season, people are all saying Celtic. So, because they look, after the season I had last year, they look like the team who are going to be the league champions again, and it's going to be tough for AMD to even beat them, never mind catch them for the title.
Yep, coming up after the break, we're going to look at Rangers, a winning start to the campaign in the Premiership. Pedro Caixinha happy with a 2-1 win at Motherwell. Yeah, so close you two, but not quite the cigar. Manchester United only once. It's amazing, actually. You would think they would have won the Super Cup on more than one occasion, 1991. There's another question coming up at the end of the next break. We are switching our attention to Rangers. First Premiership game of the season at Fir Park. A lot of Rangers fans going there waiting to see how this Pedro Caixinha team was going to perform. What did you make of them, Gordon, as you see this match unfold?
I thought it was interesting in terms of setting up for first. It was a good cross in. That was played across here by Alves, and Graham Dorrans gets on the end of it. Poor defending from Motherwell's point of view to give so much room, but I thought he was an outstanding player, Dorrans. I thought he had a great game. That's also poor defending from Rangers' point of view. I think the keeper should come there. I think that when a ball played in like that and it's in the 6-yard box before the header goes in, if he comes there, there's no one can stop him getting on the end of it. So that was one each. Motherwell were back in it. They one or two chances, but then Rangers pushed for a second goal. Cross came in here. I couldn't quite see it. I was at the game, but I didn't actually quite see what had happened there. I wondered if it was because of a push, but I understand they said it was he elbowed him or something like that. So yellow card, and Moult and Dons came up and finished his shot. Got a little bit of height in it, made the difference. And it was an excellent performance from him. And Rangers, I thought, were very good in the early part of the game. I thought after about the first 20-25 minutes, it became a much more even game, and Motherwell did have some chances and could have done better. Rangers' game fell away a little bit in terms of the domination they had. But the main thing from their point of view is getting a victory, because they have 2 home games coming up now. They've got Hibernian at home after the League Cup tie. Obviously, they've got 3 home games in a row, really. They'll Fairman midweek, but then they've got the Hibs and Hearts, their next 2 league games at home. They'll be hard matches, I think. Definitely both sides will give Rangers also problems. But the main thing from the supporters' point of view is they want to see this team developing now. And that's a start that, they've come back a bit from that early season defeat in the European game, and they do look a better side than they were looking previously.
Ruffy, a couple of points there, picking up on what Gordon said about the number 10. I think Dorrans looks as if he could be your classic number 10, play some nice, crisp football, can pick a pass. I was impressed with Josh Windass as well, because I'd written him off. I thought he was one of those players that would be shipped out, but he seems to have found a role there. Yeah,
well, he played him in a wide position, and you have to say they had 2 or 3 fantastic runs. One of the runs that he had, if he'd scored it, it might have been goal of the season so early on. But yeah, you get some players like that, to get a manager who believes that he's worth a start. And I think with the previous manager, he was in and out. I know he had injuries as well, but the manager might have had a word with him and said, look, you're going to be the guy I'm going to play in that position. So when you're a player and you're given that kind of information, it's up to you to come up with the goods.
And just quickly, am I right in thinking that you tipped Motherwell for relegation or the playoff?
No, I was Dundee.
I tipped Motherwell.
Yeah. On the evidence of that, do you think they're...
I think the evidence of that they could get out of that situation. But let's be honest with you, like most seasons in Scotland, I think there'll be a number of teams will be up and down from that position in the league. You know, there'll be, I could name about 4 that I think will be in the playoff fight. But I think Motherwell, at the moment, I think they could improve though, because I see they're a bit of strength in the team.
Yeah.
That, you know, a lot of power and strength, and it gave Rangers certainly some problems in the second half.
Yep, okay. And as you mentioned, Gordon, Rangers actually taking on Dunfermline. Motherwell are at Ross County on Wednesday. What about Aberdeen? Well, we looked at the headline there. Derek McInnes conceding already that Celtic will win the title. I don't think it's too much of a shock to see that, but how are they going to fare after the disappointment of going out of the UEFA Europa League? Well, they bounced back with a 2-0 win.
Yeah, they certainly did get a good goal early on, a good glancing header there for the big centre-half. Put them in the lead, and you thought that would have made them relax a wee bit, but Hamilton had a couple of chances, but obviously the sending off was a big part of this. You know, again, a foreign defender coming in, seems to be shot pulling, seems to be a big thing. And he got caught and sent off, and obviously Aberdeen had to show the advantage that they had, and they did late on in the game when the substitute come on. I don't think the goalkeeper could have done a lot better here. I know it's a curling shot, but maybe he was unsighted, but late on, 90th minute, done and dusted, and good to get a win.
Yeah, forgive me for accusing you of xenophobia, but home-based players pull shirts, Ruffy. It's not just foreigners.
I know, but it seemed to be a thing in Saturday. There was another game, you know, and I'm listening to it obviously, and it seems to be the shirt pulling. I think it was it in the Motherwell game? Motherwell Rangers, there was a couple of shirt pulling incidents, and it's obviously something they've got to, maybe in the country that they came from, they get away with it, but it's a rule that we've brought in, and so they have to watch what they're doing.
Yep. As far as Aberdeen are concerned, they're in a bit of bother with UEFA as well. Now, this is for on 2 occasions not actually having stewards going on the official flights with them to try and make sure that there's a control of their own fans. And over and above that, the crowd trouble in the game against Limassol has got them in hot water as well.
Yeah, well, the thing about it is if they'd had some security people with them, those people might have determined whether the fans were actually guilty or innocent, but there's nobody, they're not going to say, whatever the fans say, the Cypriots will say something else, the police over there will give a different opinion. So Aberdeen haven't made a mistake by not sending people with the team, because I think you should do that for away trips. You should have people there to make sure that they can have a word with the supporters and they can control them. But as I say, the main thing to see is how the fans are being treated as well, because there's a lot of occasions, we have seen it in the past, where foreign fans are treated badly, and mainly because the British aspect, because a lot of them do think that the British fans are more aggressive and troublemaking, so they become quite hard on them because of that, even at times when they're not really doing too much that's wrong.
But with all due respect, I must admit, I raised an eyebrow at Aberdeen fans being in trouble, because I mean, there was a real problem with them in the 80s, you know, casuals. I think lots of clubs had problems with casuals in the 80s and some in the 90s, but of late I've never thought about Aberdeen as being a troublesome support.
No, but again, you've got to remember, I think there was 700 supporters there, and probably 25 were causing the problem, you know, and it was because obviously the stewards were asking them, it looked as if to go out the stadium, they wanted to hang on for a wee bit. But I think at the end of the day, if you're in Cyprus and you're there for 2 days, you're going to be intaking some alcohol at some stage. So I would think at the end of that, with the heat and everything, I think that would be the problem, that a lot of them were just had too much to drink, disappointing getting knocked out. The stewards were heavy-handed. And that all kicked off, and I keep going back to it. It just shows you how good our stewards are. When we have guests coming over here, you know, our police and our stewards seem to have it really watertight. You know, you don't see many trouble at all, even after the game. I'm taking my mind back to the German side. It was here. They're segregated in a bit. They're all moved on in bulk, and we seem to do particularly well.
Yeah, strangely enough, I think I had a right good bevy in Cyprus, but I never really wanted to fight with anybody. It's just a thought. Let's look at two teams that you played for, Ruffy. Boy, championship flag from last season unfurled, and then Hibs come out of the traps.
Yeah, they certainly did, but 19,000 there. It was a bad goal to lose early on. Erskine makes good runs into the box. I think it was Effie Ambrose just never chased them, but they would be happy with that. But again, Hibs were very fortunate in getting this next one. Just ricocheted off two players right onto Boyle, and he just slots it away, and that gave everybody the confidence in the stadium. But after that, you know, that I don't know what it came for there. I mean, that's a full-back inside the 18-yard line. He'd no right to be there at all. Penalty, was it a penalty or not? I think you have to give the benefit of the doubt. I think it was a clumsy challenge, and all credit to the boy Murray for stepping up. He really wants to stamp his name.
Was it a penalty?
Here we go. Yeah, I would say so. I think he put his foot in there. I don't think it was any play. But as I was saying there, the boy Murray, confident. He scored, 8 goals already, and I think he could be a big player for Hibs this year.
Yeah, and of course, Neil Lennon, never one to really kind of bum it up too much. This is what he thought of the performance.
As my old manager used to say, we were astonishingly brilliant. We got off to a really poor start where we were, I don't know, you can get like that, you know, a little bit drowsy with the atmosphere and obviously all the pomp beforehand. But the reaction from the team was fantastic, and I thought we dominated the game. Dominated in terms of goal attempts, and our passing was good. Our physical attributes were good. Our physical fitness was good. And we've beaten a very good team today, so I've got to be thrilled with that. I mean, the fans here have been amazing, absolutely, since I've walked in the door. We are now looking like a big club again. So to have 19,000 in the building and going home with the 3 points with a great performance, then, you know, it's all good. But it's just the start.
Everything in the garden rosy around Hibs. They've got Ayr United in the League Cup, and I'll tell you, cannot wait to see the game against Rangers.
Yeah, that'll be a good game. It's a test for both teams, really. We're looking at Hibs, you know, a new structure in terms of players coming in there. You know, good signings that Neil Lennon's made. He's very happy with the progress that they have made from being promoted. So that's the thing. It'll be a hard game against Ayr, obviously, during the week, because Ayr have started the season really well too. But you have to say they're 2 divisions below, but Hibs should win that game. But the game against Rangers will be an interesting one, because the Rangers fans will also be turning up there to see if their team is getting better, if they've got the wherewithal and the strength now to cope with any of the teams, because I think that other than Motherwell, I think Hibs will be a top 6 team.
Yeah. Alan Archibald, this is what he had to make of the result.
Well, disappointing start obviously in the league, but no, good start in terms of the game. I thought we started brightly, done what we came here to do and frustrate them, and scored a very good goal. Just disappointed with the reaction after we lost the first goal. I thought our decision making, our passing was really slack, and we invited unnecessarily pressure on ourselves with that.
I can't see Thistle being involved in any trouble.
No, I can't see it either. I think with boy Brannigan back, who's a big player for them, and I think they've got a lot of new signings who will do particularly well, but I just think they need to win games.
OK, that's the key to it all. You can become a great manager if you keep winning games. We've got another little question regarding the Super Cup coming up. You two are not doing too well at this competition, by the way. I need to come up with an easier question. It's as simple as that. All to do with the Super Cup, of course. Manchester United take on Real Madrid in Macedonia tomorrow night in the Super Cup final. We'll have one more question regarding the Super Cup to test your knowledge before we leave you tonight. OK, from the games we're talking about involving Hibs, Partick Thistle, Rangers, Motherwell, we switch our attention to what I think some people might have raised an eyebrow at. Dundee losing at home. Neil McCann, first game in charge on the domestic front in the league, and they lost 2-1 to Ross County.
Yeah, I think this was a surprise of the day. You know, the first goal was in there, a good strike from Lindsay just from outside the box. and it was a bit of a shock, I'm pretty sure, when everyone saw that Ross County were in front. But the second goal here, I can see Scott Bain, the goalkeeper, not happy. I think he was annoyed that someone should have been on the post and they'd left their position there. But the header went in from Rautis, the defender, French defender. He scored the goal. But look at Scott Bain, he's raging about that no one got on that post. So you think to yourself, is that going to be Ross County's day? But Dundee did get back in it as well. A goal for another centre-back, heading the ball in there. Henry just got on the end of it there. That was a good header. You could criticise the marking a little bit maybe, but nevertheless it got Dundee back in the game, but they just couldn't turn it around. So most people will be surprised by Ross County getting an away win in the first game. Yeah,
call me old-fashioned, Ruffy, but a corner 6-yard box, surely the keeper's not come for balls now.
Yeah, but if you've got two big centre halves in front of you, and if they can't defend and head the ball, then what chance have you got once they miss it?
Yeah,
you know, you've got to make a decision that if you're coming for it, you just take everybody out. But in these occasions there, I thought the centre halves were to blame.
I see a lot of situations where people don't always do it. There's sometimes teams don't have a man in each post, and I never understand that. But they did actually. Yeah. Dundee had a man on the post, and as the ball came in, he left his position and it headed in, and that's why Scott Bain was raging about that.
Yeah, absolutely. But Ruffy probably, Gordon, wasn't the best guy to ask about coming for a ball. No, but honestly, if Jimmy Johnson and Willie Henderson were in the box, you still wouldn't come for a cross.
No, that's what you do when you're a goalkeeper. You just shout at everybody else. you know it's your fault, but start blaming everybody around about you.
Everybody thought you were tied to the post.
I've got to ask you this. Neil McCann, Dundee made eight new signings, so he's going to take time to bed in. I'm really interested to see how he develops this Dundee side.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of managers do make signings. They feel that it's required, but you know, sometimes 8 and 10, as we saw with Motherwell, and Motherwell only played. I think they played 5 of their new signings, and they've got about 8 or 9. They've got more than 10, I think. And he's talking about bringing in more. Rangers have got the same, and Dundee, they've got to try and bed your players in. So you don't know. Neil McCann obviously knows the game very well. I've always been impressed by his knowledge of the game and how things are going, and he did turn things around. Dundee would have been relegated last season if he hadn't come in. He got them 3 games, he got the 7 points, which was the total difference between staying up or going down, and then they fell away again. And it looked to me as if at that stage, with his anger, that he was going to walk away from it. He didn't like the way the players were in those final games, but then he decided to take the job. And although they've qualified and they played Dundee United during the week in the League Cup, he'll be annoyed with that result, because the last thing he'll want is Dundee to be down there again, like playing and trying to avoid an actual relegation or a playoff spot. Yeah,
and of course, as we mentioned, Ruffy, it's great that 2 Dundee clubs locking horns again. I thought it was a great game the first time around.
Yeah, it certainly was. But as Gordon was saying there, you know, that's Dundee. OK, they lost it in penalty kicks, the Derby game. They've lost at the weekend there. They've got another Dundee United game coming up. And if they were to lose that as well, that just is pressure you don't want to handle so early on, you know, after just getting away for relegation. So it would be a backward step to lose these games. They haven't so far, but it just puts added pressure on them.
Yeah, and a word of positivity towards Ross County, because I think most of us, as far as predictions and early predictions in the season, I have them in the playoff place.
Yeah, well, I thought it was going to be tough for them, especially when they lost Boyce, their top scorer, who did a fantastic job. His goals were so crucial for Ross County, and you think if he hadn't been there, would have been in the playoff position last season, and you think, yeah, probably would have been. So, but you know, the main thing about it is other people have to stand up now and get the goals. They get the 2 goals from set pieces there, so I don't know how they'll be in terms of general play for somebody to put the ball in the net, because he certainly had done a great job for them.
Yeah, if you were a betting man and you were looking at Kilmarnock against St Johnstone, Gordon Smith will explain why you wouldn't be putting money on the home side, but at the end of it, the Saints came away from Rugby Park with all 3 points.
Yeah, they certainly did, and they had a good start early on. I think it was Weatherspoon. Nobody prepared to tackle him and let him have a shot, and he certainly did finish into the top corner. He doesn't score that many goals, but when he scores them, they're quite spectacular. Chris Boyd, bad ball, you know, only 3 in the wall, comes through. I thought the goalkeeper maybe saw it late, but he should have done better than that. But Chris Boyd will be quite happy to take that and notch it. But this was a goal for me the weekend. Harlan picked the ball up and by one or two players. Everybody just backing off him, and he's got lots of pace. You can't touch him now, and he gets a shot at goal. He's got a lot to prove this year, and certainly I think St Johnstone have got a right good signing there.
Yeah, sometimes it's all about just a club that seems to be a good fit for you. O'Halloran, you know, on loan there, he scored. Barry Mackay scored at the weekend. Joe Garner scored at the weekend.
Yeah, I know, it was unbelievable. And that was a terrific goal. And that was something he had at St Johnstone. We didn't see it at Rangers at all. Fun enough, he never saw any individual play like that in his spell at Rangers. And I think that was probably a disappointing signing from that point of view. But as I say, the strange thing, and what you mentioned before, Peter, was the fact that last season, the reason I tipped St Johnstone Saturday was because last season, the 3 games they had, Kilmarnock won in Perth, the 1 game there, and St Johnstone won the 2 games at Rugby Park. So that's them done it again. That's 4 in a row now that it's the away team who are winning. So Kilmarnock need to pick up on that. You know, they've been in different form a little bit in the League Cup section. They lost the first game to Ayr. They've come back in a couple of the games and played better in the second half. But they've made a few signs as well. I do think Kilmarnock will pick up, but that's a disappointing start to the season for them.
Yep, here's confirmation of the Premiership results from the weekend. Again, the champions starting off with a win. Ross County will be happy with an opening day win. Hibs, St Johnstone, Rangers and Aberdeen. So no draws in the opening league fixtures in the Premiership. We'll be looking at the League Cup fixtures as well, because there's some really interesting Tuesday and Wednesday games that I think we'll be able to cast our eye over the course of this week. Let's have a look at what's on offer Tuesday and Wednesday for you. Celtic Kilmarnock, Falkirk against Livingston, Hibs against Ayr United and St Johnstone against Partick Thistle on the Tuesday. The Dundee derby is the pick of the bunch on the Wednesday, with Hamilton against Aberdeen, take 2 after just playing each other. Rangers against Dunfermline and Ross County against Motherwell. So again, now we're getting down to the nitty-gritty in the League Cup. This is when it gets exciting, Ruffy. And I think the good thing is you're going to get somebody winning a trophy before the end of the year.
Yeah, I think the new format is to be congratulated. I think the groups were quite exciting for obviously the smaller teams taking on the bigger ones. But now, yeah, it looks as if it's a cup you want to win. You know, everybody were dismissing it as if it was a trophy that nobody wanted. But yeah, I think you're right. I think once this round's out the road and obviously the next draw coming along, I think it will get even more exciting.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's some good games there. As you said, the Dundee derby is obviously going to be an interesting one, because Dundee United did push them very close in that game, and at that time they didn't have strikers, Dundee United, and now they've got their strikers back. McDonald will be fitter, Keatings will come in as well. So you're looking at those games. A couple of them have got hard draws. You know, Kilmarnock got a hard draw. The fact they had to go away to Celtic. If it had been a home game, it might have felt a bit better about that. But you know, Ayr United as well, I felt sorry for them because they were the #1 seed coming into the draw, and yet they get an away draw against a higher division team. Obviously, they played them last season 2 or 3, 4 times, obviously, but this season Hibs have strengthened. But Ayr United have started the season well, but there's certainly some good games there.
Yeah, certainly looking forward to them. It becomes ever more painful for Hearts, Ruffy, just not to be involved.
Yeah, not to be involved, yeah, but I think it gives them a chance to maybe regroup, you know, and get themselves organised. There'll be a lot of talking getting done. I don't know if you think there's going to be a new manager before they play their next game. We'll have to wait and see on that one. But I think as the days go on, as you said earlier in the show, more names will pop up.
You might give John Daly another chance, because as Peter Houston even referred to there, you know, how many managers would have gone to Celtic Park and got a result anyway? You know, whether it was an experienced manager or somebody just coming in. So they might say to him, give him another game to see how he develops the team, to see whether he can turn things around and get the team playing well. So he might be still in charge of the next match.
Yeah, I don't think there's a great rush on Hearts' part with regards to this. OK, the League Cup games are there, and then they have to get back to league duty. I don't think there's a rush, but I think they'll have to sift through so many applications. They might have one out of left field that changes their mindset, Ruffy.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. We don't know who these people are applying, but certainly every time everybody else needs a manager, there's 40 or 50, and you never know. There might be a name in there just ticks the boxes. It might be a name that we're not even talking about, so we'll just have to wait and see.
They might do it. Somebody who I knew was in recruitment, and he said when they get all the applications in for a job, he used to throw half of them in the bin. And I said, why did you do that? He said, we don't want unlucky people working for us. That's what he said. They're unlucky.
I just briefly, it's a strange one. Just briefly on it, Ruffy. I think they have to go for someone. Certainly, you. I don't. Listen, I know I've accused you of it, but I don't think the foreign route is the way for Hearts right now.
No, obviously they did go down that foreign route, and I don't think that the fans accepted every one of them. There was a couple that they liked for a wee while, but I think they went off them. It depends who the names are. It really does. But unfortunately, I don't think for John Daly it's the time for him. I think that if he was to get the job, the first thing he's going to get hit with again is lack of experience.
OK, didn't think Ruffy was going to shut up there, but we'll get more from him after this break. I love it when Ruffy starts going through Man United players to try and come up with the answer on this one. And he eventually suggested Wayne Rooney, who was at primary school, Gordon, when this game was being played, if at all born. Anyway.
He was a good player at primary, though.
Yeah, he was fantastic. Yeah. Brian McClair, listen, that's Brian McClair was one of, I think if you to get Sir Alex Ferguson to write down his top 10 signings since he was at Manchester United, I think Brian McClair would be in that top 10.
He could possibly be there, yeah, because he did a great job for him. I mean, he was a very good signing, and as I say, Fergie certainly during that era he got things going, no doubt, because that was the period when all the youngsters that had been in the youth squad started to come through, the Beckhams and Nevilles and all these people.
Yeah, and he was the first player since George Best actually to score 20 goals in a season, league goals.
Yeah, and I'm led to believe he's a riot and nights out.
Yeah, absolutely. You're listen. I'm going to phone Brian McClair and tell him what you said there. He's now the reason why he's peeved is we had a night out with Brian McClair, and when Ruffy was getting up to speak, Brian McClair said at the start, "Don't be offended if I leave when you get up to speak."
All right.
So he stood up, and Brian McClair just walked right out the door, and I thought, now he's either heard Ruffy before or he just can't be bothered. So it was one of those. Anyway, Manchester United are involved in the Super Cup against Real Madrid, and curiously enough, there's still stories going that Bale could be offloaded to try and either finance other signings for Zidane. And there's still stories that Ronaldo might want away from Real Madrid too. I mean, and that would be even more sensational, I think, than Neymar heading out the door.
I think we're now at a stage now is how greedy do they want to be. They've just seen 199 million in Neymar, so I think players being players now will go, but I wonder what I could go for. Yeah. Particularly Ronaldo.
I mean, Ronaldo's, I think, you're getting 2 or 3 years more at the top with him. He's changed from that wide, devastating player to a number 9.
Yes.
So
I think you're right. I think that whether somebody would want to pay that when he is in his 30s now is difficult to understand, really, because but he's still doing a great job. There's no doubt. I mean, his goal scoring record is phenomenal. I think that I've always said Messi is better, and his goal scoring record is sensational as well. But Ronaldo's is even better. To actually have more goals than you played games for Real Madrid, I don't think you can take that away from him. So outstanding. Whether he'd want to come back to Manchester United is another question. That's always been the talk, that that's where he'd want to finish his career now. Yeah,
even Gareth Bale's been linked with Manchester United, and who knows, maybe even Chelsea. Just on that, give us your prediction. Jose Mourinho facing one of his old clubs. He's the Manchester United boss. Who wins the Super Cup?
Real Madrid for me.
I think Manchester United will win it.
Yeah, great. That's what I love about it. Disagreement right away. We cover all the games over the course of Saturday's programme in all 4 divisions in Scotland. We've given you the Premiership results. Here's how it shaped up in the Championship at the end of the day. 0-0 between Dumbarton and Morton. It was Dundee United just edging a rather contentious goal from Paul McMullen. He won't care. The result stands. Livingston and Dunfermline sharing the spoils. Good win for Queen of the South against Brecon City, but the game of the day was undoubtedly at New St Mirren Park. Des McKeown was our reporter there for St Mirren against Falkirk. In the end, the Saints ran out 3-1 winners, and Jack Ross clearly, with that result and looking ahead to the season, has lofty ambitions.
I think I've said, in the close season that we have to aim to be promoted. There's obviously 2 ways of doing that now at the Championship, either winning the title or through the playoffs, and it has to be the ambition. I think that last season what I felt about the group is we had a cause, we had a target, and that was remaining in the league, and it was a tangible one for us. And we've spoken pre-season about it. That aim for us is to be promoted, and as long as we keep gaining positive results, we'll have a chance of doing that in either of the 2 ways. So it's not being arrogant, it's not being foolhardy. You must have causes, and we've got that at the moment within that squad, and we'll continue to grow that.
Yep, full marks to him. As soon as he pitched up at St Mirren, I actually remember saying last season, lads, St Mirren will escape the drop, and you couldn't rule them out being in the mix for the promotion.
Oh no, not at all. I mean, I think that this year it's a much more even contest. Most people would say the biggest club probably in the league are Dundee United, but St Mirren aren't far behind that in terms of size. Falkirk were one of the favourites because in previous seasons they have been, in the playoffs and done well really, and that was a good result for St Mirren, because to be 1-0 down as well, Falkirk got off to a great start, and then to come back and win the game 3-1, then you have to say St Mirren, I think, will be one of the teams who will be challenging for promotion.
Yeah, I have to say that Falkirk was my team for promotion. They still are. I mean, it's only 1 defeat, but certainly I thought when the League Cup was on, the 5-0 defeat to Partick Thistle was a wee bit of an eye-opener, because obviously that's a bit of a setback. But they picked themselves up, and that is a really, really good result the weekend for them.
You mentioned that you thought Falkirk would be your promotion tip. Is that in a playoff, or is that winning that division over Dundee United, for example?
Yeah, I was going to go for them to win it.
Yeah.
I thought the sort of a hunger of being in the playoffs year in, year out, and failing would be the motivation for the players to go one step further.
Yeah, OK. Here's how it looked in League 1 and League 2 over the weekend. If you're following the lower league football, good win for Ayr United, and Wraith Rovers sharing the spoils with Alloa. After Gus McPherson came on our programme, we've jinxed him, losing to Arbroath, and of course Forfar with that good win over Airdrieonians. Forfar coming up from the lower league. League 2. And this one could be difficult to call. Edinburgh City didn't get the best start to the season, and you can see there, Ruffy, my tip to win that division, Peterhead getting an away win.
Yeah, but obviously they've learnt a lesson from last year. I think Jim's went out and actually bought some players. I think the chairman's opened the purse for the first time in a while, and he's brought in 4 or 5 players, and I think they'll do well this time. OK, there was one big match as ever to kick off the English football campaign. The lower leagues have kicked off, but the Community Shield is always the highlight of the start of the season when the English Premier League clubs get ready to lock horns. It was 1-1 at the end of the 90 minutes, and then, of course, the penalty shootout. It's got a new format, first and foremost. Are you in favour of it? One team takes a penalty and then the other team takes 2 penalties.
Yeah, that's an interesting one as well. I mean, little changes like that, I don't see what's wrong with things like that, but it seems strange that was the format. I didn't know that was going to be what they did, but in the end up, Arsenal were the successful team, and that's twice they've beaten Chelsea at Wembley. They beat them in the cup final, and then now this game as well. So they'll be thinking they've got a good chance, because that's the league champions they're beating. Yeah,
it's called the ABBA method. This please don't, Ruffy, because the last
winner takes it all.
Yeah, the last thing. I was actually going to say the last thing is for you to start singing songs, because the two of you are notorious for singing songs when nobody really wants to listen to you. The other part of it. Are you into keepers taking penalty kicks, Gordon Smith, ahead of outfield players?
No.
No?
Only if it comes down to the fact they have to. I would say the keeper should take them, but I wouldn't. I would say that that's an embarrassment to any outfield player.
I'm glad you said that, Gordon, because Michael Owen said if any keeper had gone up to take a penalty before me, I'd be embarrassed.
Yeah. If you've got a £60 million striker on the park and the goalkeeper's taking the penalties, there's a problem there somewhere.
Absolutely.
That's a good point, Ruffy. A couple of things I want to get your thoughts on before we finish. Apart from the Community Shield, there was something else that was taking place, especially in the MLS, which I think is going to gather pace, which is, of course, the VAR, the video to assist the referees, video action replays. And in the MLS, there was FC Dallas thought they'd scored, but after a 2-minute video replay, the goal was indeed chalked off. So, you know, anything quickly, maybe 60 seconds, 2 minutes, is going to happen. Interestingly enough, I watched one on the weekend in the Dutch Super Cup where there looked as if there was a big claim for a penalty, and then the referee wasn't giving it. The play raced up the other end, Feyenoord scored, and then the referee went back to the video play, disallowed the goal, and then awarded a penalty and booked the player for the offence.
That's unbelievable, that because I always thought the main thing would be that it would have to be before the game went on. If the game moved on and something else happened, you had to let it go. I also put this forward to FIFA quite some years ago, and I believe that I did a paper on it, and I actually said that it should be 2 challenges per game.
Yeah.
From the technical area, so it doesn't hold up the game. You get 2 challenges, but like tennis, as I said at the meeting, and I got criticised for that.
Yeah.
I said, like tennis, if you get it right, you've still got your 2 challenges. If you get it wrong with your challenges, then you've lost them. So that would mean there wouldn't be too many challenges, and you'd only be challenging when it's crucial things, and it has to come from the technical area.
I still think it's good that the referees are getting a hand, Ruffy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think somebody said it. Get it right. You know, every manager that comes out after a game, they say, get the big decisions right. If you can't get the big decisions right, we're going nowhere. So if he pulls it back and he gets it right...
I thought it was for protection for them as well.
Yeah.
But the committee that I was on, the football committee of UEFA and FIFA, both said, we don't want this. This will take away from the game and all that. And the great thing about a pub argument's what football's all about.
Yeah, I never thought we were actually going to start off the season with Gordon mentioning a paper that he'd put forward, but he's managed to get it in. Don't forget, folks, Pele, Eusebio, Beckenbauer, still to come in the name-dropping stakes. Yeah. I leave you with a thought. Yeovil have decided to refund money to all 258 supporters for travelling to Luton and witnessing an 8-2 thrashing. So all 250 supporters will get their money back. I just wonder, clubs handing money back to fans, will it ever catch on? Thanks to Gordon Smith for joining us here in the programme tonight. Ruffy and myself will be back with you tomorrow at 7:30. Good night.